Hello everyone, I'm Ryan from Fireside Knicks with my friend and co-host Dylan Backer, and in today's video we're talking about whether the Knicks should be shopping around Julius Randle or not. Right now, obviously reports came out that the Knicks are going to be interested in Bradley Beal, and that this wasn't like a just, oh, they found that Bradley Beal was available so they'll do their due diligence. No, they've seemed to have some interest in him for a while, and this isn't necessarily surprising. I believe they had interest in him a couple years ago before he got his extension when he was due for one, and it was rumored that the Knicks would potentially be offering a package for him. Now, weirdly enough, I think they're in a better position now than they were when they weren't as good to make an offer for Bradley Beal, mainly because of their pick situation, and I think their young talent is pretty good. And overall, just the contract of Bradley Beal has diminished his value, despite the fact that I don't think he's that much worse of a player than he was 2 to 3 years ago. But, with that being said, one of the guys that are going to be involved in a trade, or not going to be, they're going to be discussed in a trade, would be Julius Randle. And, Julius Randle's been talked about in trade packages really for the longest now, right? The second the postseason ended, there are people who have wanted Julius Randle traded, and we wanted to kind of throw our hat in the ring here and talk about our feelings on that. And so there's plenty to talk about, and we're really excited to get into things. But Dylan, how are you doing today, my friend? And tell me a little bit about what you feel when you hear Julius Randle trade rumors.
Right, so, when I hear Julius Randle trade rumors, the first thing I think of is like salty Knicks fans that are mad about his playoff performance or his temper tantrums on the court or whatever it is, that makes you not like Randle. But when I hear about, trade rumors around Randle, I think, okay, if they're going to trade him, it has to be for the right guy because Randle is not no slouch. He's a two-time All-NBA player, two-time All-Star. You don't accidentally do that. You actually have to earn that, and Randle has earned that both times. Not many power forwards get you 25, 10, and 4. For those who say that Obi Toppin should start over Randle, you should check yourself a little bit because, Toppin may have shown flashes as a starter, but let's be real here for a second, guys. He's not better than Julius Randle, no matter how much you dislike Randle or whatever. Obi Toppin is not better. But with that being said, Bradley Beal stuff, yes, the Bradley Beal stuff did come out the other day. The Fred Katz report yesterday saying that how, discussing the Knicks level of interest in Bradley Beal and how they've been interested in him for quite a while now. It isn't like just a new thing that sprung up. No, they've seemed to want him for a while, and understandably so. He's a very talented scorer. Very efficient from the floor. He's a decent three-point shooter as well, pretty above average in that aspect. So understandably so, they want Bradley Beal to improve the offense, and I totally get that. He's also a solid playmaker too, so you enhance some ball movement as well. It's just a matter of that contract. The contract situation is tough because Bradley Beal is also the only player in the NBA with a no trade clause. So first and foremost, if the Knicks want to get Bradley Beal has to say yes. It's not like the Wizards can just move him and Bradley Beal doesn't have a say. No, Bradley Beal himself has to say yes, I will take that trade to the Knicks. So that's the first and foremost thing. Secondly, if the Knicks were to make an offer for Bradley Beal, it's almost certain that it's going to involve either one of R.J. Barrett or Julius Randle. Now, before we got on here this morning, we saw Ian Begley reporting that he thinks that given R.J.'s recent playoff performance, that R.J.'s position in New York seems a little more safer than Randle's. Now, me personally, I disagree with that statement, and I say that because, okay, yes, R.J. did step up in the playoffs, and I applaud that, and I do think that it kind of made, the debate of which one needs to go in terms of Randle or Barrett a little tougher. I do agree in that regard. But in my opinion, I think Randle would be the better long-term fit. I personally do. Yes, I understand some people may say he's not a winning player or he won't help us win games, this and that. I think he just pairs with Jalen Brunson better than R.J. Barrett does, and I think that's what's more important. Because, Jalen Brunson clearly has become, the guy on this team now. I think that was pretty clear during the postseason. So, with that being said, I personally like Brunson and Randle as a duo better than Brunson and Barrett. Now, I'm not saying Brunson and Barrett as a duo was bad. I just think Brunson and Randle as a duo was better. I think it's better. I think there's more scoring involved. You have more all-around scoring. You have three-point scoring, inside scoring, mid-range, free throws, all that stuff. Randle, of course, is a good rebounder as well, so you're enhancing that. Both Brunson and Randle are pretty good playmakers as well, especially Randle at his position. Not many power forwards are as good of passers as Randle is. Yes, the turnovers may sometimes be an issue, but for what it's worth, he's a really good passer. So with that being said, that's what I think about it. I think that, they should try to focus on adding another piece to play alongside Randle, and Brunson. That's what I personally think. I think it would be better, but, to each their own on it. What do you think about it, Ryan?
Yeah, no. We discussed this in the RJ Barrett episode. Like, what should the Knicks do with RJ Barrett, right? The Knicks struggled with 3-point percentage, they struggled with defense, and they struggled with true shooting percentage, right? So, efficiency from deep, efficiency as a whole, and just being a consistently strong defensive unit that did improve with Josh Hart. So, I'm not too concerned about the defense the way I am about the 3-point shooting. I do think they need to get a little better defensively, or at least have better defensive personnel in place. But I'm much more concerned about their ability to stay efficient offensively. And RJ Barrett had a below average true shooting percentage last year, well below average 3-point percentage, and trending in the wrong direction in recent years. He's regressed every single year since year 2 as a shooter. And then defensively, he didn't provide you much. Defensively, RJ Barrett really struggled, and it wasn't like RJ Barrett was playing the role he was in 2020, where he was asked to defend some really tough guys. That was Quentin Grimes' role this season. Again, Quentin Grimes led the league in matchup difficulty on defense. So you can't really put that as the reason why RJ Barrett struggled. RJ Barrett struggled defensively. He was giving the Knicks a lot of problems there, and he's the only starter in that starting 5 that doesn't check off any of the 3 boxes, right? For as raw as Quentin Grimes is as a prospect, he's someone that you still aren't entirely sure of if he can take that next step. He's still a plus shooter, and he's still a plus defender, and I think he's a plus in true shooting percentage as well. So he checks off all 3 boxes on paper, and I think he fits the Knicks well. Don't even have to talk about Jalen Brunson. Yes, he's a negative on defense, but we're not discussing whether Jalen Brunson fits the Knicks or not. I think that's crazy. Mitchell Robinson doesn't provide you the spacing, and while yes, he has a strong true shooting percentage, you expect most bigs who only take shots in the paint to have a strong true shooting percentage. So I'm not going to give him that either, but he's a great defensive center. He helped the Knicks a lot in that series against the Cavs. Remember, guys, the Cavs are walking into that series with 2 of the best defensive bigs in the NBA, and Mitchell Robinson had Jared Allen saying, "Oh, the brights are a little too light, or a little brighter than I expected." When you get a grown man to admit that, you did some things defensively that series that are definitely impressive. So I don't think we're talking about Mitchell Robinson being the reason why the Knicks didn't get past Miami, or as a I wouldn't even say as not a place to improve, because you can get better from Mitchell Robinson, but not a place of dire improvement, or not a place where you absolutely need to trade Mitchell Robinson. He's a plus for this team. I think he helps this team. You look at Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. That's what it comes down to. Randle's a better shooter. Randle provides you more volume from 3. He's more efficient of a scorer. He's a better volume scorer. Both of them are negatives on defense, but Randle provides you physicality. And for as much as people get upset about the temper tantrums and all that stuff, that brings a level of intensity that I think the Knicks need, right? There's a reason why Tom Thibodeau loves Julius Randle. If Tom Thibodeau did not like Julius Randle, if the players couldn't stand him, I promise you he wouldn't have been here after last year, when he A, wasn't an all-star player, B, he just wasn't good last year, right? The year before this, he wasn't that good, right? The Knicks had he was causing problems for the Knicks, and they stuck with him, right? And there's a reason for that, because the production matches the intensity he has on the court, and yes, it spills over into meltdowns and all that stuff, and that's not acceptable. I'm not saying that that's something that we should tolerate or we should say is okay, right? It does cost the Knicks sometimes because of technical fouls and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, right, does Julius Randle not fit this team better than RJ Barrett does? And when people say, RJ Barrett's only 23, well, we're entering year 5, right? And if we're making a win now move, we're not worried about the development of RJ Barrett. We're worried about trying to win games. And is RJ Barrett going to be the second option or on a Knicks team that has Jalen Brunson and Bradley Beal or Zach LaVine or whoever it may be? Absolutely not. He's going to be in the exact same role he is now, with a smaller starting lineup, as you would imagine that Quentin Grimes have to slide into the small forward position, and that you'd have to move, Beal or LaVine or whoever it may be to the 2 spot. You don't know who your power forward is at that point, right? That creates a lot more questions. It's a lot easier to make you just take RJ Barrett out the lineup and replace him with Bradley Beal than it is take Julius Randle out of the lineup, replace him with Bradley Beal, and then add a power forward. It just doesn't make a lot of roster sense. It doesn't make a lot of basketball sense. And the numbers back this up, right? The numbers say that Julius Randle impacts the Knicks significantly better than RJ Barrett does. And I think that matters. Again, you're a win now team. You're not in the world of developing RJ Barrett. This is never going to be RJ Barrett's team. I think we kind of have to move past that. This is never going to be his team. It sucks to say that, because, that's what you envisioned when he got drafted, but you can't get stuck on the vision of what you had when he was drafted. You've got to allow new information to change opinions. End of the day, I think it would be not disastrous, but I think it would severely limit the Knicks' ability to win in the postseason if they were to try to run out a lineup that had all three of Brunson, Beal, and Barrett on the court, knowing that all three of them are negatives defensively, and knowing that you're going to have to then add a power forward at some point or do something. I mean, are you going to bench Barrett? I mean, you're going to have to bench Grimes. I don't even know why I'm mentioning Grimes here. You would have to bench Grimes. So you bench your best defensive wing, right, outside of Josh Hart. You have to start RJ Barrett with those guys. You're turnstile defensively. I promise you're going to get 130, 140 dropped on you by certain teams. It's not going to work. I don't think the fit works in the basketball court. I don't know what you think, Dylan.
No, I actually 100% agree with everything you were saying. It's just like, we really wanted RJ to be like the guy on this team. We really did. We were rooting for the guy. When we drafted him back in 2019, we envisioned him to be exactly like the guy by this point in his career. Unfortunately, it has not panned out that way. Yes, he is only 23 years old. He is young, but like you said, it's also year 5. At this point now, he's a veteran. He's an NBA veteran at this point. He's no longer like a young prospect. No, he's a veteran now. He's got plenty of league experience now. So at this point, you need to like really consider who helps his team more in the long term and what's the better fit. And yes, I know Randle is not a perfect player, and nor is he necessarily a popular player among the fan base, which me personally I don't understand because Randle did turn this franchise around. So I feel like we're not giving him enough credit for that. But with that being said, I like RJ Barrett as a player. I do. I just don't know if this Knicks team is exactly the spot for him in the long term. And that's not exactly like RJ's fault. It's just a matter of, does he fit around the other guys on this team, and will he in the long run, provide some championships or anything like that? I can't say that. And I can't, I want to be transparent here. I can't say the same thing about Randle either. I can't. I'm not going to sit here and act like Randle is definitely going to get us championships. No, I'm not going to sit here and say that. But what I will say is I think there's a better fit situation with that, because like you said, if you drop Randle, now you have to go find a power forward, because I'll tell you right now, if you start Obi Toppin for an 82-game season, it will not go well. It will not go well. Not only will it be awful defensively, but you're gonna lose a lot of points out of doing that as well. Randle provides you 25 points per game. That's not an accident. He's that good of a scorer, and it's on a good efficiency. So it's not like he's just out there chucking. No, he's getting his buckets. Obi Toppin has shown flashes, yes, but like we've been saying, he's smaller, he's less physical, he doesn't play as good defense, he doesn't even rebound very well too for his size, which is a concern. So it's not, in my opinion, I think you got to stick with Randle. I really do. And I'm not saying that Randle can be like the guy. No, I don't think Randle should be the number one option on this team. I think that has to be Jalen Brunson at this point, or if you go get another superstar, it's that guy. I don't think it should be Randle, but I also don't think we should axe Randle here and treat him off and send him off like he's some scrub and that he's not worth being on this team, even though he's a 2-time All-NBA player, and we haven't even had like a 2-time All-NBA player really since Melo. So, and I'm not comparing Randle to Melo. I don't want fans to jump on me for that. But with that being said, I think we need to respect this player a little more. I think we do. And I'm not saying to, do the reverse effect on RJ Barrett. No, RJ Barrett's a solid player. Yes. Long-term fit, I think Randle makes more sense. I think it does. If you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. I just think it makes more sense. You get more scoring, you get more physicality. I think you get better basketball. I really do. I think it just makes sense from a fit standpoint. That's really all I got to say. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and ultimately it just comes down to fit, right? If you told me, okay, RJ Barrett goes to the Wizards and he goes out and he becomes a productive player, I wouldn't be shocked by that. That wouldn't necessarily be like, oh my gosh, who could have seen this coming? But again, it comes down to, all right, so the Knicks acquire, let's say, Bradley Beal. This is the hypothetical, right? Because I guess that's the likely situation, right? Not saying that they're absolutely not going to look at anyone else, or that they're 100% going to get Bradley Beal. There are other teams in the mix that could get more desperate. I think Miami could get super desperate here because Jimmy Butler's 35. And unlike the Knicks, they don't really have that second scoring option. I know Bam is a second star, but he's he's not really a score first guy. You wouldn't necessarily think of Bam as the guy who's going to drop 30. Could they get more desperate? Absolutely. The Bucks, maybe? Yeah, definitely. Those two teams might be more desperate than the Knicks. But if the Knicks were to pull off a trade for Bradley Beal, again, just looking at a projected starting lineup, would you which team wins more games? Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Bradley Beal, Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson? Let me not say Obi Toppin. That's unfair. I think they would acquire a starter. I know they're interested in a Naz Reid type. I don't know. I'm gonna just say question mark. Let's say an above average defense first power forward, right? Because that's probably what they would look at. Or would you rather have Jalen Brunson, Bradley Beal, Quentin Grimes, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. I think that second lineup significantly better, right? It's not. I don't even think it's close. I do not think it's close. Those first three guys in the Barrett, Brunson, Beal lineup, that right there, you're gonna get like Jason Tatum's dropping 40 on that. Like I don't even think he's gonna have to break a sweat. I think him and Jaylen Brown would drop like 80 combined on that, right? Like and that to me enough. That to me alone would give me enough issues. This is not the NFL. This is not the NFL where you can get 30 dropped on you and just throw out Patrick Mahomes and win a million games. It's not going to work like that. This is the NBA. You could argue defense is a slightly more valuable than offense in the NBA. You could make that argument. It's extremely valuable. Really, which team is the last really bad defensive team to win the title, right? I can't even think of one. People labeled the Nuggets as a bad defensive team. I'd say the numbers and I'd say their performance in the postseason completely shut down that narrative. Jokic completely got rid of the not a defensive liability narrative. The Warriors are a strong defensive team when they won it. The Bucks, I mean, come on, we don't have to play there. Come on now. The Lakers, right? Anthony Davis, unbelievable defensive player, right? I know he has injury issues, but still, unbelievable defensive player. The Raptors with Kawhi. You got the Golden State Warriors, 3 straight years. You have Klay Thompson as one of the best 3-and-D guys. And Kevin Durant was a strong defender at the time as well. LeBron, when he won his titles, LeBron in his prime was one of the best defenders in the NBA. Had D-Wade as well, had Chris Bosh. I'm just saying, you don't see teams that can't play defense win titles. And if you have Barrett, Brunson, and Beal on the court, they are not going to do anything for you defensively. And then you're going to have to be in a situation where, you mentioned it with Bradley with the no-trade clause, if it doesn't work with one of those three guys, then you inevitably just trade RJ Barrett because you're not trading Brunson. You can't trade Beal. You would have to trade Barrett. So I think regardless, you're kicking the can down the road. I feel like this is a tough conversation to have. But for Randle, it feels like, I don't know how long Randle will be a New York Knick. But I know that there's a chance that he can fit on a team that has Beal and Brunson. I feel like if you have a team with Beal, Brunson, and Barrett, you're just kicking the can down the road for trading Barrett. And I feel like at that point, that's just unfair to the guy, right? You're just going to make him a third option on a team that, doesn't have any defense around him and ask him to guard, hey, I know you struggled defensively last year. Now go get Jason Tatum, please. Hey, can you go stop, I don't know, you want to go stop Jamal Murray if we go play the Nuggets? You want to help us out with that? That feels unfair to do to the guy. Whereas, Julius Randle, not that you can do more unfair things to him, but I think that Julius Randle can have his deficiencies masked a little bit more with Grimes and Robinson next to him. Beal is still a weird fit for this team because he's an offense-first guy. And I think we can agree there. It's it's still gonna be a weird fit if they do it. But I just think that Randle, and he's been he's shown defensive flashes before. It feels like it's more so a consistency thing with him. And I think I think you can kind of wrap up all of Randle's struggles with just consistency, right? Sometimes it just feels like he's either on or off. There are days where he's making the clutchest shot you've ever seen, or he's lighting up the Timberwolves for 50, right? He can't miss from 3. And then there are other nights where it's 1 for 9 from 3 and 5 for 17 from the floor, and you're you just shot us out of the game. But I've talked about this before. The Knicks sometimes are a little passive on the court. Sometimes they don't take the shot, right? You see, and I think ball movement's a good thing, but sometimes I kind of wish Quentin Grimes was a little more aggressive. Hey, you got an open look, just pull the trigger on a 3. Just shoot it. Don't worry about trying. Just shoot it. You know what I mean? And Randle's one of those guys where he's got an open look from the corner. He's shooting that thing, right? And I have the confidence that he'll do that. And so I think that yes, he's got to do better consistency wise. Got to keep the emotions under wraps a little bit more. But the overall package for Julius Randle is a net positive for the Knicks. And I think that trading him would only be acceptable if you're severely upgrading your team. We're talking acquiring an MVP guy. I think you could agree with me there. And I don't know if you want to have any final points you want to throw in before we wrap up.
Nah, basically, I second everything you said. Everything you said was pretty spot on to me. It makes sense. Just having a lineup of Brunson, Beal, and Randle just feels better than having 3 smaller guys as your 1, 2, 3 guys that don't play great defense, and guys that haven't always not saying that Beal and Barrett aren't trustworthy players, but Beal's had his injury issues. Beal actually took steps back in his past 2 seasons from scoring 30 plus a game. RJ Barrett has been the RJ Barrett of inconsistencies that we all know. My point that I'm trying to make is I think fans have given up on Randle a little too quickly, and I understand that there's frustration that's boiled over from the 2 playoff losses. I understand, but in Randle's defense, look at the team around him, man, in both runs. Jalen Brunson he had this time, yes, but the spacing was still a massive issue. Outside of Jalen Brunson, not a single person could shoot. that's going to affect Randle too. That's going to affect him. Yes, maybe Randle contributed to the issue a little bit as well, but it's also going to affect him when no one else is spacing the floor enough and he can't, get better looks from three or get looks from inside the paint, which is probably where he wants to go to more often, but he's unable to do that with the lack of spacing, so he's forced to take more outside shots. I want to see, I want fans to kind of see, like, before they draw a complete conclusion toward Randle, I kind of want to see what it would look like with a more spaced out offense on the court for Randle. JJ Redick made a good point on ESPN a couple weeks ago during the Knicks playoff run. He said, like, yes, Randle was bad in the playoffs, yes, but it's also not entirely his fault. The spacing around him was terrible. Nobody around him could shoot. It's as simple as that. When the spacing is that bad, you can't expect even your star players to do all the work. You just can't do it. It's not going to work that way. Especially when your guys are more expected to work inside rather than 3-point shooting. I'm not saying that Brunson and Randle should not be shooting threes. No, I'd love for them shooting threes. They've been good at it. It's just, that's obviously not their strength. That's not their go-to scoring method. So, just my point that I'm trying to make is just, let's see what happens when there's more spacing in the offense before we draw a conclusion of whether Randle really is the issue or not. And maybe fans will say that we're being too fast on RJ. We should do the same thing for RJ. I understand that, but at the same time, we're in year 5 for RJ, and he's been up and down his entire career, and we're kind of just wondering, like, okay, is he actually going to be that guy or not? Randle, yes, I understand maybe he hasn't been like that guy in the postseason, but again, wait until we have more spacing to draw a conclusion. Wait until we get more of that. We've already seen that Randle can be that guy in the regular season. We've already seen that twice now. So he's proven it. I need RJ to do the same thing. And quite frankly, he hasn't. So there's a reason why we're highlighting RJ more as a trade candidate than Randle. It's as simple as that. It's not that we have a vendetta against the guy. It's a matter of fit, and we want to win games. We can't focus on player development forever. We got to try to win games. We're past the draft and development phase now. Now we're in win now mode. We are, because now we're a playoff team. Simple as that. That's pretty much all I got to say. Do you got any final thoughts and want to wrap this up?
Yeah, no. Just turn off my own mic. I think the big thing here is that, and you emphasize this, we don't have anything against either player. We just want the Knicks to win. And we understand that this offseason, because of rumors like this, are going to create a Barrett versus Randle thing when it should just be a conversation. Like, we're all Knicks fans. At the end of the day, we want what's best for our team. And, whatever the starting 5 is, whoever our rotation guys are, we just want them to be the best they can be. If there's a world where RJ Barrett steps it back up defensively and is just plays like an OG and an OB, role with better offense. If he could do something like that, we would be sitting. I think you and I would be sitting here like, man, this is exactly what the Knicks need. Because at the end of the day, RJ Barrett's 23, right? Or 22's turning 23. We acknowledge the fact that there's a possibility he takes that leap. But we also acknowledge the possibility that it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen here, and it has to happen somewhere else, or that the fit isn't necessarily there. But with that being said, we'd love to hear you guys and hear you guys what you guys have to say in the comments below. This is definitely a really, really interesting conversation. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot that goes into it. So we appreciate you guys sticking through the entire episode and checking out our podcast. If you guys like what we do, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. You guys can check out Fireside Knicks on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course this YouTube page. The audio version of this podcast will be out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Drop a 5-star rating if you can. And you guys can follow our personal Twitter accounts. They're above our heads. We do articles on Empire Sports Media on various New York sports teams, whether it's the Yankees, whether it's the Knicks, the Giants, all those teams. And we really appreciate you guys if you guys would check out those articles as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys so much, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out.